You killed it this season. I know everyone's shipping Alicia and Luke, but I mean, I think we got to go back and forth. Like, I'll ship all three of you together.
Listen, if we left it up to Luke, he would be in both of our favors all the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin.
Hello, it's so great to see you guys again. Kristen Maldonado from Pop Culture Planet. I loved talking with you guys at the end of last season, and you did it again. You did it again. I'm shook.
Thanks,
Kristen.
Thank you. So, I mean, I got to start with you, Robbie, playing two different versions of Nathan. How did you get into that mindset? What was that like? How did you kind of like keep track of everything?
I won't lie, I'm very lucky. The writers are very good, and they wrote two different voices for the character or for the characters. I also get to have one of them opposite Allegra and one of them opposite Andy. So my job is I'm very spoiled. And I got to have fun with it. Meet Nathan's going through a pretty serious storyline of murders and election fraud and trying to not have his head explode. And backup Nathan is totally oblivious at the beginning and just living his best life and um, figuring out a relationship and moving on from Nora. It was really fun to get to have scenes over again, like the scene where Nora shows up at the door and I'm like, oh my God, you're here. How do I know it's you? And she's like, yeah, let's go. But it was fun to get to kind of play the same thing over again in a different way or like slightly different or with a different outcome. And the scenes with myself were wild. It was like, do it with an acting double, have him walk out, do it with nobody, put an earpiece in, do it to my own voice so that I can get the timing down and hope for the best and pray. And luckily, our crew and our post-production team is so good and I bought it and it looked great and people seem to dig it, which is very cool.
It was awesome. Like, kudos to you. That sounds crazy.
Oh, thank you. It was fun.
And now, Allegra, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you explored Ingrid's journey, especially like that conflicted feeling that she kind of has at the end of like, Lakeview, Nathan finally, she's finally getting what she wants, but like it's sort of making her feel the opposite of what you would think.
Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. And if I'm being honest, it was like a little tough for me to wrap my head around at first, but watching it again, I was like, oh, I think I see what this is. She has been so laser focused on mission. You can't fault her for following through with a plan and really sticking to her guns. She's committed. Maybe she should be committed. No, she should. Anyway, the thing that I think is so beautiful and interesting about that is the question that we all have to confront eventually is what happens when you actually get what you want, and do you feel deserving of it? Like, if it's been so unattainable to you up to a certain point and then you get it, does that make you second guess yourself? Or have you just been invested in the chase, or have you just been invested in the work of it? Like, do you like the problem of it? And then on top of it, this added layer, which I think is so beautifully written, and huge kudos to our fabulous writers, that like, what if what people are saying about Nathan is true, that he's less than human? And there's still a part of herself that I think Ingrid wants the best and wouldn't want to admit to herself that she's settling for a piece of code or someone that isn't a real man. I think there's this thing of like, do I deserve this? But also I deserve more. The fact that both of those things can live in the same person at the same time in a courtroom is amazing. And I think it's just really well written.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh my goodness. And of course, Andy with Nora, Nora's been kind of a double agent this whole time, and now we're finally getting to see her have this relationship that she's wanted in the real world for so long. I'd love to hear about how you explored your journey as well.
I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. It's that feeling of really wanting a relationship with Nathan and trying to make it work through him being dead and her being alive and that barrier. But now there's this obstacle of like, oh, we're in the flesh. How does this work? Like, those different kind of quirks or ticks, you know, that you learn about somebody, really, really get to know them when you're with them in person and
Mhm.
seeing like, does this really work? Or did I fall in love with a fantasy and the perfect version of you, where it's AI and everything is, you know, great. So, I think that was really beautiful just to see their arc together in them, how they fight, how they make up, how, you know, they navigate those different things, and also accepting, you know, accepting of each other. Even like the day, like his upload day, and her wanting it to be this really special day and it going so badly, yet he's so like, no, I'm just happy to be here, you know. And that's like that kind of sacrifice, but also really in a partnership where you really cheer the other person on, and he's seeing, hey, I want you to have a life, you know, whether it's with me or not with me, like I want you to be happy. And I think that was such a beautiful moment in Nathan's character of his growth too, you know. So um yeah, I really enjoyed this season and them exploring that relationship.
Your dynamic together, like top tier, top tier. So I'd love to hear from both of you. What was it like playing opposite each other?
Oh God, it was honestly, it was uh, a dream. Like you guys as a cast are just so wonderful, so professional, such a like focus on the work and excitement about the material. And I think that's what's translated to it just being like such a fan darling, this show. And now in the post-show glow of like seeing all your upload fans start to come over and be like, oh hey, I'm like, this is a special corner of the TV universe. I feel really lucky that you guys just like welcome me into the fold. And I had the best time with you, as you know. I felt like one of my big things early on was like, how do I have enough like presence and in like sex appeal in my 5'4" self to match the goddess that is Zainab. And I remember that first day on set just being like, I need to just like meet you where you are with your presence, you know, and Alicia. And it was just like such a fulfilling fun. I feel like it made me grow as an artist for sure. And I feel like we got there. Mm-hmm. It was just such a loving thing to get to have as a partner.
Yeah, I agree. And you fill up way more than your tiny little petite frame. But I knew that when we did our chemistry via Zoom, which is always strange. Yeah. But I don't know, something about Janine, I just even through Zoom, I was just like, that's Karina, you know, like, and then on set, like, it was almost like it hadn't been a new thing, you know, like she had been there the entire time. And I knew that we had to like capture something slightly different than Alicia and Luke, because the fans are so on board with Alicia and Luke. If we're in agreement with one another, or if we're at odds with one another, they're loving it. And so I knew that Alicia and Karina had to capture something slightly different. And I feel like Janine and I did. My favorite moments on set with Janine, when we're not shooting, of course, it's so much fun. But in the scene, whenever she's going from like, you know, this kind of like doting, you know, love interest to kind of like, she just flips it on a dime and becomes this kind of like shark. I'm like, ooh, okay. But those were, I used to just love experiencing it. Like, ooh, this is real. Okay.
Girl. I love those moments too. Absolutely. So Janine, for you, how did you flip it like that? You know, how did you find those two different sides of yourself?
Yeah, this isn't a kind of character I normally get to play, and I was so excited about getting to be evil, and it was intimidating to what Upload does so well is these characters truly represent corporate greed, like these big examples of evilness, and so I think it was sort of the fact that she got to be so into Alicia and so attracted to her and like so in a groove with her, and then snap to this sort of, you know, dissociative like quality of sharpness, made it a little less intimidating. It was like I could latch on to the being wildly attracted to a person, and that kind of like let it be the bridge into. And also, I'm going to say this awful thing about, you know, uploading children. You know, it was, I was grateful that you know, Greg and Maxwell and the team like gave me that vehicle, that bridge.
You know what, too? You just made me think of it, Janine. Like, we do give, Upload does give like a glimpse of like maybe what Greg thinks the future will be like, the very near future will be like. And we do talk, we have like these really big kind of topics, if you want to go into them, having to do with like the corporate world. But then we do these things that are really subtle that I love. Like, you have these two beautiful women of color on the screen. And then they're engaging in kind of like this same-sex relationship, but we don't talk about it, you know, like we don't, it's not a thing. Like, it's like, oh, this is the future where there's fluidity and there's, you know, and I love the way Janine and I got to play with that, but I also love the material that the writers gave us to kind of like, this is like something that we're talking about, but we're not talking about it, you know?
Amen.
I love that. It's just normal. It's just, we're beyond having to even discuss it. We're just doing it. I love that. And now, Zainab, I wanted to ask, because your character takes some big risks this season that end up getting covered up. And so I feel like there's that struggle of just like, you want everything to be resolved, but like, you know, we got more seasons hopefully to come. So for you, what was it like diving into those big risks for Alicia's character?
The risks are scary, because if, you know, when I think about season one, I think something that people loved, and I would say Greg loved this, is this like natural chemistry that Alicia and Nora had, you know? And this like deep friendship, like you know, and I remember in a pilot episode, it was like, she was trying to be my friend. And I was like, I got something else to do. And then it was this like true loyalty, you know, and then us kind of growing in this world, and me having these desires, right, to maybe be in a place where Karina is. But then like this dying need, which is very similar to Nora, to do right, you know? And I had to kind of, again, the separation between Zainab and Alicia, I had to keep reminding myself, like, okay, why am I doing this? Okay, because ultimately I think that this is bad, right? And I want to do the good thing or the right thing. And in the moment, like in life, you know, you make a decision and you don't think about the risk, which is why I love kind of like Alicia's last scene of this episode, you know, it's like she doesn't know what the consequences, and she's a character who is kind of used to doing what she, you know, we see her get scolded a little bit, but that's what we love about Alicia. Like, she gonna do what she want, you know? But then there's this moment where it's like, but maybe there's some real consequences to essentially whistleblowing, or you know, and yeah, you know, hopefully it's another season to see really what comes of that.
I hope so too. There was just so many reveals of this season that like blew my mind, but like the biggest being that like that whole download thing, it works. Like, we don't have to, you know, and then it brings in all these questions of sort of like the technology and who owns who. And I feel like the way you guys tackle the tech in this, it like makes me scared for our real future, because I'm like, why are you so accurate? So I would love to hear, I guess, what you guys think is next, now that we know that you can kind of come back from the dead.
Yeah, well, I think the next logical question with that is, how many times can you upload and download? Like, can the new existence be, no, upload is still kind of flawed, and all of our digital afterlives are a little funky, but if we could just keep, you know, like the star-bellied Sneetches, anybody, just keep recycling our old body and then upload for a little bit and then new body, and I mean, could we download into pigeons if we want to? You know, like how many I'm not saying I do, but could you? Like how many do you get before your soul expires, or does it? So that's what I want to know next. That was deep.
Yeah.
It's a circus.
So and now, you know, going off of that, by the end of this season, you know, it's like, did Nathan make it out? Is he tricking us? Do you guys have any theories? Do you know anything?
We don't know for sure. The writers keep it pretty tight-lipped.
Okay.
But we have our theories. We're kind of split. We think it could be backup. Obviously, that makes the love triangle hit a little more back to season 1, where, you know, Backup and Ingrid are about to get married, and Nora doesn't have a Nathan anymore. So, but I mean, then you have to look at it. Okay, well, if it is original Nathan, is he alive in the real world, or are downloads not a thing that are allowed yet? Like, you know, there's the whole, he's owned by Horizon. Does he have to live as an upload? So what I will say is we're very lucky that Owen, Greg's son, who's a writer on the show, and Greg and Maxwell and our whole writing team, they are very, very good at what they do, and they're very creative, and we're all fans of the show. So I am very excited to read season 4. Hopefully we get to soon, and hopefully we get to work on it very soon after that. So my fingers are crossed.
Mine too.
Yeah, same.
Congratulations to you all. I mean, you guys always blow my mind. I also got to say, Robbie loved Xmas. So,
thank you.
Yeah, you guys are just all killing it. So congratulations, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I like your Duff book in the background there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and if you want to talk more TV and movies with me outside of the comments section, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/kmaldo. If you like this one, you can check out more of my videos right over here. See ya!